Hello and welcome to my art lesson for 9th and 10th grade students on how to understand the value in artwork and analyzing a piece of artwork. The goal for this lesson is to utilize student vocabulary to propel a discussion, and then from there we look at an example and further use student vocabulary and integrate that with art terms and ideas to help understand and interpret the meaning of a painting. This is going to be the basis for constructing students' own paintings in the future, and during the lesson we try to have students model the figurative nature of the painting, as well as have some choice as to whether they want to describe the painting in words or reconstruct the painting using techniques and images and marks in the painting. We start out by giving them a vocabulary list that has some key terms from previous art lessons, as well as a word bank at the bottom of the page. The word bank allows us to enter new words and new vocabulary as we go through the lesson, at which I will direct students to incorporate vocabulary that we're using and write it down on their paper. Giving specific instructions, write this down now, or would somebody please volunteer? Tell me exactly what word you used to describe this painting. Think of one word to describe the painting you're looking at. Specific instructions really seem to be helpful in getting students to elicit answers that guide the lesson. At the end of this lesson, students will have produced a graphic organizer which will allow them to understand the vocabulary, art terms, principles, and ideas that they've used to deconstruct the painting, and also formulate an opinion on the value of some artwork. Don't worry about reading this now. We're going to just be using these terms throughout our lesson. What's important now is that we're going to talk about our essential question for the day. What gives artwork value? We're going to be thinking about this as we go through our lesson. So the first activity we're doing today is that we're going to come up with an idea for our favorite song, movie, or picture. Can you think of your favorite song, movie, or picture, and then I want you to write it down on your paper. Now once you've written down one of your favorites, it doesn't have to be your absolute favorite, but just one of your favorites, take a minute to think about why this movie, song, or picture is your favorite, and write down some key words that you would use to describe it that will go into our word bank for today. Would anybody like to share one of their favorite movies, songs, or pictures? Think of something that has meaning to you, why it's valuable, and can anybody think of a word that describes that? So, do we have any volunteers?
I picked The Lion King for my favorite movie.
The Lion King, great. Why do you like The Lion King, Carly?
Well, I've always liked it since I was little, so I'm guessing that it has a lot to do with the colors in it. It's really exciting and funny, and it's got a moving story.
Those are great descriptive words for why you value the movie The Lion King. Colors, funny, exciting, like. These are all words that we use to describe things we value. After soliciting several answers from the class and filling up the word bank with usable vocabulary, move on to another question about value. So we've just come up with some words that describe why we value some of the things and some of the artwork and movies and pictures that we like. Why would it be important to have more words in our word bank to describe these things? Does anybody know?
Maybe so we understand them more fully.
Great. That gives us a better understanding of what our values are. So, can anybody tell me why it would be important to have values? What's the importance of values?
If we don't have values to judge things, we have no way of knowing what to give more importance to.
So values help with our judgment, and the words that we use express our values. Can everybody agree that the words we use are important because they express our values?
Yes.
Excellent. So, changing gears here, we're going to move from a discussion using vocabulary and look at a picture. So, referring back to our essential question today, we'll be learning what makes artwork have value. We're now going to look at a picture and decide why it's valuable. And I just want everybody to look at this graphic organizer. I'm going to pass out this graphic organizer that provides you an opportunity to write down what your first reaction to this painting is. Now don't think too much about it. I just want you to write down the first words that come to mind and maybe describe the painting you're looking at. Okay, great. So now that you've had an opportunity to write down a couple words, we're going to do a think, pair, share. So everybody turn to their partner and discuss some of the words they came up with and some aspects of this painting that they reacted to. Think about the vocabulary words we've already come up with in the word bank, and maybe use some of the words off the vocabulary list from the beginning of class. So after students have the opportunity to discuss with each other the characteristics of this painting, we're going to reconvene as a class and talk about the different aspects of this painting and use our graphic organizer to analyze it. Okay, now that everybody's had an opportunity to discuss this painting, what are some of the first words that we've come up with to describe our reaction to it?
We said that it's very bright, so even though there's not a lot of color, they're bright colors, which makes it contrast with the background. It makes it kind of jarring.
Those are all excellent vocabulary words we've used to describe this painting. I even heard bright colors. Colors was a word we used to describe earlier our description of the movies we were talking about. We've also got some art vocabulary in there, contrast. Some different aspects of this painting that have contrast. Okay, I want everybody to stand up, okay? This side of the class, stand up. This side of the class, stand up. We're going to divide the class right down the middle. Now everybody on this side, I want you to make the shape in the face of the figure of this side of the painting here. Okay? Now everybody on this side of the class, we're going to make the shape in the face of the figure on this side of the painting. Okay. Now remember, this is an adult discussion, so we're going to respect each other, and we're not going to make fun of anybody. These are some pretty funny looking figures, but let's see if we can figure out a way to physically express the figures in the painting. After students have had an opportunity to model each figure on each side of the painting, have them switch and model the opposite. Okay, that was fun. I like some of the expressions you all were coming up with. Now, let's start to break down some of the actual components of this painting. Moving down your graphic organizer and coming to description, what do you see? Can we think of some words that further describe this painting? Think about some of the specific art vocabulary we've used this year.
It's got paint, that's the media. Got two figures in it, so the composition is like split down the middle and kind of mirrored. And the mood and emotion in it's like a little wacky and disturbing, kind of.
Wacky, disturbing, paint, mirrored.
Very bold shapes.
Shapes. These are great use of these words to describe this painting. Now, I want everybody to choose one element of these words from the description and try to mimic the element that they see in the painting on their paper, using either your pen, pencil, or marker. So look carefully. If you're having trouble seeing the screen, you can come forward and look at the video screen here And I want everybody to take a minute and choose one element of either shape or symmetry or something that's wacky and try to mimic that or draw that on your paper. Give students the opportunity to draw for 5 minutes and emulate one of the shapes on the painting. Okay, now that everybody's had an opportunity to come up with some of the different characteristics of this painting, we're going to come back and talk about it a little bit more. Moving down your graphic organizer, we're going to talk about interpretation. Who do you think painted this painting? What type of person? How old were they maybe, or?
Youngish.
Okay. How do you think they were feeling?
Maybe a little crazy.
Crazy?
Very expressive.
Expressive?
It almost looks a little angry.
Angry. So these are great interpretive words that students are coming up with that we can add to the vocabulary bank. We're using their language to direct the lesson, direct the discussion, and fill up the word bank with potential words that are descriptive that we can use in our artwork creation. Now that we have some words that describe different aspects of this painting and a couple visual examples that you all have both modeled physically and drawn in your guided notes, we're going to take a minute to do a closure activity, and this will transition into a later activity where we'll be making a painting in the style of this artist. I'm now going to tell you all who made this painting and what it is. You wouldn't believe that this painting sold for $48.8 million at auction last year, one of the most expensive artworks ever to sell at auction. It's made by a young painter, Jean-Michel Basquiat. He made this painting in 1982 when he was only 22 years old. So you all have correctly analyzed this painting and come up with some great vocabulary words without knowing anything about it that actually describe it. The title of the painting is called Dust Heads. Does anybody know what that means?
Nope.
Dust heads is a slang term used to refer to drug users of the drug PCP, also called angel dust. And so Basquiat created this painting that's also pretty crazy looking, about people that might feel crazy or angry because they're on these substances. I think these vocabulary words that you all have come up with are excellent. So now, for our closure activity, I want you to look at the bottom of your graphic organizer for a little bit of guidance. And based on what you've observed in the discussion we've had, you have two options. You can either draw a painting in the style of this one, and we're going to use the sketch that you come up with for our painting that we're going to start in class tomorrow. Or you can write a descriptive paragraph on whether you think this artwork is valuable based on the information we've gained. So the fact that we know that this was a young painter that painted this painting when he was 22, he was a graffiti artist. So these are actually paintings that he did in a graffiti art style, and he did them about drug users. Is this painting worth $48.8 million? Take a minute to use some of the 3 vocabulary words we've discussed today and explain why this painting would be valuable to you. So students are given an option for either creation, synthesis of the information that we've used today in a written description of this painting, or they're given the option to start on a transitioning activity moving towards creation in our next lesson. Thank you for listening.